Okay, let's get started, everyone. Welcome to the Fairfax Cryobank virtual town hall meeting today. This webinar will be recorded, and we will be sharing the link to the recording with all of our registered participants after we finish up. So today's meeting is going to be town hall style, but we're going to get started with just a quick introduction of the speakers, and then we will get started with our content. So I'll be moderating today. I am Michelle Oddie. I am the Lab Director and Director of Operations for Fairfax Cryobank. We have Suzanne Seitz, who is our genetic counselor. We have Doreen Dugan, who is our Senior Client Services Representative. We've got Kate Wisda, who is a nurse practitioner at our PRS clinic, in Pasadena, California. And we have Alexis Larson, our Marketing and Content Coordinator. Today, Morgan Barker, our Senior Marketing Manager, is going to be moderating questions for us. So I always like to start a webinar by talking about what the goals for today are going to be. And real simply, today, Alexis is going to present the new family forums to you all, and then we are here for you. We're going to answer your questions. Anything about the donors, the donor process, what to order, the ordering process, how to use the vials, what procedures right for you. And so we're here for you to help you find the ideal donor and help you build your family. So to get started, I'm going to switch over and allow Alexis to take the
But can we go ahead? Alexis is having some technical difficulties, so can we just go into some of the other content real quick, talk about some of the donor brands and everything first?
Sure. So let's switch over. So just to get started, when you come to Fairfax Cryobank looking for a sperm donor, you have the option of choosing one of 3 quality donor brands. We are made up of Fairfax Cryobank, which is headquartered in Fairfax, Virginia, Cryogenic Laboratories, which was purchased in the early 2000s, and Pacific Reproductive Services, which we acquired a couple of years ago. All 3 donor brands are high quality. All of the samples that we distribute have high specimen quality and will meet our specimen quality standards. So as you're looking for donors, you can look at any of those donor types. They are all going to show up in the donor search when you put in your characteristics and try to narrow down that list to pick a donor. Just one other point to touch on, when you're looking for donors, we offer 2 different donor categories, non-ID donors and ID donors. A non-ID donor is a man who participates in the program and agrees to provide all of the same background information, medical, personal history as the ID donors, but he does not agree to have his identity released to the offspring. Whereas with ID donors, they do agree to allow us to release their identifying information upon request by your child when they're 18 or older. As of this year, we are actually only bringing new donors into the program who participate as ID donors. In the past, we offered both programs, but with the evolution of the field and in response to trying to meet the needs of our recipients and of donor conceived individuals, we've decided to only bring in ID option donors going forward. So you do have the choice of choosing one of our established non-ID donors or choosing an ID donor. Alexis, are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready to go now.
All right, let's go back to your slide. So we just want to get things started by allowing Alexis to introduce you to the new family forums. Okay, Alexis, I turned it over to you.
Great. So sorry for the mix-up. Can everybody see my screen? All right, so the first thing that I'm going to show you guys is how to actually just sign in. So the first thing that you guys are going to do, you're just going to go to the regular login page and you're going to sign in with your normal account. And it's just going to be the account they use for all of your donor products and the donor search. And after that, you might be taken to the actual donor search. So you're just going to come right back up here to resources and you're just going to press family forums. And that should bring you to our categories homepage. And so on here, you can see all of the different categories we have, from Share Your Story to Ask Fairfax Cryobank and Fairfax Cryobank News. After that, if you can't see anything that you're interested in through these categories, maybe you're looking for something more detailed, you can actually use our search box up here. So just for an example, I'm going to type in new mom. And from that, you're going to be able to see all of these different blog posts we have, other different discussions that other users have done, and anything that's going to be related to new moms or a new mom, you're going to be able to see that right here. So we're going to head back to our homepage, and I'm going to show you guys actually how to join a private group. So I'm guessing some people here have used the forum before and have some kind of understanding of these private groups that people have. So as you can see under here, you can see all of these different join buttons, because these private forums are actually only for people who have used a certain donor or even want to register and connect with other siblings who are connected under one donor. So for example, if you're looking for a certain donor, you're just going to type in the donor number up here. So I'm going to type in donor 4005. And as you can see, I can't see anything in this group. So if I wanted to join, I'm just going to press this join button right here, and I'm going to type in some information. And what you're going to do is you're going to type in name, clinic name, donor number, and child date of birth. And after you've typed in all of that information, you're just going to press OK. And all of that information is going to be sent to our verification team. And if you have all the correct information, you will be approved to join whatever donor group that you want to join. After that, we're going to take you to probably the most simple thing that you want to do, which is starting a new discussion. So the example I wanted to show you is we're just going to come into Ask Fairfax Cryobank. You're going to come up here and press New Discussion. And so just for an example, I'm just going to type in, when's your next webinar? Under here is going to put in some type of body of information, which can include, I love all of your other webinars. And after that, you're just going to post the discussion, and it should show up under Ask Fairfax Cryobank, and we'll get to you as soon as possible. And then the next thing I'm going to actually show you is your personal profile. So up here is a really fun feature for us, because you can actually customize the different icon that you actually use throughout the forum. And so you're just going to come in here, press change icon, and you can upload whatever picture that you want to use. Other things that are in your profile are your username when you join, and any notifications you might have, and past discussions that you've participated in. Another thing I wanted to show you is also these preferences. So you can come in here and actually edit all the notification preferences that you want. So if you want to be notified when someone writes on your wall, you can get an email for that, or just a pop-up whenever you're on the forum. And after you're done customizing that, you're just going to press Save Preferences, and all of your preferences should be saved. The next thing that we want to go over is reactions. So as you can see here, I don't have any reactions as of yet, and so we're going to come right back in to Ask Fairfax Cryobank when I did that discussion post. So you're just going to come in here And as you can see all of these different types of reactions. It's kind of just like you're on Facebook or any other social media platform. What I would like to note is this flagging reaction, and what that's going to do is going to send it to our moderators in case you find anything that is inappropriate for a forum, or you think it looks kind of spammy. We want to give our users the opportunity to flag this for us, because obviously we can't see every single post every single person posts. The next thing we're going to go over is your personal messages. So on the old forum, you actually were able to private message people, and this one's just a little bit easier to use. So how to start a message is you're going to press this little notepad up here, and you're going to type in the recipient that you would like to send this personal message to. So I'm just going to send one to myself, and I'm just going to say hi. You're just going to post that message, and as you can see the two people who are in this conversation, and you can even add people to the conversation from typing them in here. And under here, you can see all of the messages that you guys have in between each other. Okay, and the next thing I'm going to go over is recent activity. So if you haven't been on the forum in a while, this is a great place to go just to see what other users are doing. As you can see, there are new users that have joined. Other people are joining these and getting and earning these badges. So the longer you on it, you get a badge for that. Or if you have commented on something, you'll get a fun badge that also can be viewed on your profile. Another recent activity, which most people will be interested in, is the recent discussion. So again, if you haven't been on the forum in a while, you can see what other people have been posting, maybe something that you'll be interested in, and you can just go in here and press any of them and just comment or start a new discussion. And the last thing I'm actually going to show you are this feature for bookmarks. So these bookmarks are a great way to bookmark a discussion, maybe a favorite blog post, and it all comes into this one place so you can view later, or just view at any time that that's convenient for you. So I'm going to show you actually how to bookmark something. So we're just going to go back into Fairfax Cryobank News, and we're just going to press the blog post. And under here, you can favorite any blog post that you want, and that will be saved up here with all the other bookmarks, and you can view all of them at once under here. So that's just a general overview of the forum. And again, if you have any questions about this for any of the private groups, or anything that you might have a discussion on, any permissions that you have in the forum, please email us at forum@fairfaxcryobank.com. And I'm just going to give this back to Michelle, and thanks for watching.
Okay, let me share my screen. All right, I'm going to pull up, I have the website pulled up. Is everybody seeing that?
Yes.
Okay, all right. I also have our PowerPoint presentation. In case there are some frequent questions, we have some slides available. Morgan, do you want to get started with some questions?
Yep, so if anyone wants to submit their question for the panel to answer, you can do that in the webinar, the sidebar, the questions box. You can submit a question and we'll go ahead and read it for you. We do have a couple here already. One says, my wife and I were wondering when the lull in new donors would pick up again. We signed up for Club Fairfax 2 months ago and have only received one email about a new donor.
Doreen?
Yeah, we are always adding people to the website. As soon as they finish their screening, the donors are added, and then they're sent out as email blasts to people who are part of Club Fairfax to get preview notifications 2 weeks before they are added to the website for the general public. If you want to just make sure that you're definitely getting those notifications, you can reach out to client services so we can check your email address and make sure that we have everything correct on file for you.
We did have a little bit of a lull in announcing new donors because, as you can imagine, the COVID pandemic has affected us as much as has affected you. So things slowed down a little bit. We are going to have a little bit of time. We need a little bit of time in order to get some inventory cleared from donors that is eligible for distribution. And we're really hoping that in the coming months, we're going to be putting up more and more new donors. We're just waiting for that inventory to clear. We want to have something ready for you when we announce them.
Is there any chance export will change with Brexit in the UK?
Ooh, that's something I know a little bit about, but I'm not totally sure. We do have Michelle might be able to answer that one better if she works more directly with the international team.
Yeah, so at this point, we're not anticipating any changes to our current process, which is working with designated distributors and clinics in the UK. If anything does change, our global team will, of course, keep you up to date on that. We will update the websites with that information.
Kate, this is a question for you. What time of day are women most likely to ovulate? General time. When is the best time to inseminate before ovulation? And then how long does the thawed semen last in the body after insemination? So that's a couple of questions there. I can repeat a
few of them.
Yeah,
Okay, so I'm just going to go over a general overview of it. So
okay.
Women can vary when they ovulate. If you have a 30-day cycle, it's usually something like cycle day 14. We know that you can check for ovulation using ovulation predictor kits. It will be checking for your LH surge. You have a hormone in your body called the luteinizing hormone, and it's going to spike super, super high 24 hours before you ovulate. When you get that spike, it should likely be in the morning. So usually that spike occurs around midnight, 3 a.m., and then you'll wake up at like 8 a.m., 7 a.m., and you'll check your OPK. It'll tell you that it's a positive, meaning you're going to ovulate in about 24 hours. So once you ovulate, 24 hours later is when you want to inseminate. So our frozen sperm is going to live 12 to 24 hours, and you're going to be fertile for about 24 hours. So it lines up perfectly. I think that answers most of those questions.
Okay, and then how long does thawed semen last in the body after insemination?
Yeah, so the semen that we use, because it's been previously frozen, lives inside the body for about 12 to 24 hours. And we know that you're only fertile for about 12 to 24 hours. So like I said, it lines up perfectly. Fresh sperm lasts anywhere from 3 to 5 days inside the body. But ours, like I said, has been previously frozen, but it's definitely an appropriate amount of time.
Okay, and then someone else, kind of a follow-up question here. Hello, I've been tracking my cycle, and every time I check, the test line is the same as the control line, and I recheck an hour later, and I see that the LH surge is low. This has occurred twice. Should I be concerned that I don't ovulate?
Yeah, so some women don't ovulate every month, and that's okay. Some of those tests, some of the OPK tests or ovulation predictor kits don't work for all women. In my personal experience, I'd say that the OPKs work for maybe like 50% of our women. The other women have to come in for ultrasounds to check to see when they grow the follicle, how big the follicle gets, and then we can predict ovulation by using sonograms. Some women, that line never gets as dark as the control line. Their line never gets as dark as the control line or the reference line. And it's the day when it shows up, that's when they ovulate. But I can't tell you for sure when you're ovulating unless I do a sonogram. I know that's more costly, but if the OPK tests are not working for you, they're probably not going to work for you. Okay. I would also recommend getting the ones with the 2 lines. So it looks like a litmus test, and it's 2 lines, not a happy face. There's digital ones with the happy face, and there's these really expensive ones right now that are like $300. Don't get either of those. Those are meant for heterosexual couples having sex. It's not meant for women that are inseminating. You want to get the ones that show you the LH surge. You don't want to see that slow rise. You want to see the huge surge. So getting the slightly lesser one is actually going to be more specific to your needs.
Great. Thank you, Kate. Michelle, here's a question for you. Is there any sort of regulations regarding donors donating to several banks? In other words, can I be assured that a donor won't be selling sperm elsewhere?
It's a great question. It's an important question. Because our tracking of families relies on self-reporting by clients, it's really important to ensure that we're getting accurate information. The only way we could do that is to ensure that we know all that we can about the donors. So the bottom line answer to your question is no, there is not a specific regulation or law or anything like that that prohibits a person from donating sperm at more than one sperm bank. That said, several years ago, we developed, several of the larger sperm banks developed a database system. And what we do is we upload our donors to this system, the centralized system. And this way, for example, if somebody donated with one of our competitors and they then apply to our program, we will, during the screening process, run some very basic information through this database, and it would ping, it would tell us, oh, this person donated at such and such a sperm bank, and he would be rejected from our process. As far as I know, all of the sperm banks, and ask the question, have you donated with another sperm bank? But we wanted to take this one step further to ensure that we weren't getting serial donors. So we worked together and we set up this database. At this time, there are 3 sperm banks participating in monthly uploads of data. We're working to get additional banks in there. I say 3 banks, but really it's 6 because Fairfax includes CLI and PRS as well. And we are working with several other banks and potentially expanding this into egg donation as well, because we recognize how important it is to have that accurate information, just for accuracy, but also for tracking of families.
Great. Doreen, we have a few questions for you related to pricing. Someone wants to know, are there any end of year promotions planned? And then will vials increase in the new year in 2021?
I have heard that we are increasing our vial prices. I just don't know what those are going to be. So if you wanted to make sure that you got this year's prices, you would want to order before the end of the year. And promotions, I know right now we're offering 3 months of free storage. If you're unsure of when you wanted to ship out your vials, we'd be able to store them for you for 3 months for free. I don't know what future promotions are going to be though. Not yet.
Well, Michelle, why don't you bring up the slide with the free unlimited access? One thing that we're offering for the folks here on the webinar today is free unlimited access, the full unlimited access package for $129.95 through the end of the month.
And that's a great deal. Doreen, can you talk a little bit about what the ULA is?
Sure. So it's going to give you free access to all the information on the donor's profiles for 90 days. So that includes adult photos, if applicable, their lifetime photos. There's a lot of free information too, but all the extra information that you would normally have to pay additional money for to view is going to be included in that full access package. Michelle's bringing it up on the website to kind of show you an example of what would be included with that. So all those items that say add to cart below on the website, that's going to be included in the access package. So you'd get to see the personal profile, which has more in-depth information about the donor's family and their history. The silhouette, so you can see like the profile view of your donor. Like I mentioned, the adult child photo set and the lifetime photos. All that information's included there. And it's not just for one donor, it's for all of the donors for 90 days.
It's a really good deal.
It is.
And related to the unlimited access packages, someone wants to know, is it possible to add a second email address for Club Fairfax for their spouse?
Would that be for notifications about the donor?
Yes, I think so, yes.
I don't believe so. I believe it's just one email that we notify you for.
Okay. Okay, so Suzanne, here's a question for you. When it comes to genetic testing, a donor who has expanded donor profile with genetic disorder versus a donor without expanded testing that wasn't even tested for that disorder. That's the question. I'm sorry. Hold on. I'm sorry. Maybe I misread. When it comes to genetic tests, can you just maybe explain what the expanded profile or donor profile testing includes versus one that does not have that?
So in January of 2018, we actually started a new screening protocol for our donors, and they now have 283 conditions screened to see if they're carriers for those conditions. Now, being a carrier means you're healthy, but we certainly wanted to be able to provide more information that would be valuable to clients choosing the donors. But that means donors that produced prior to 2018 are going to have the screening panel that we were using prior to the 283. So there are going to be donors with both types of testing on the website for you to find. If you yourself have had the expanded panel done, that's incredibly valuable for you to know that before you start looking for a donor, because then you know if you're a carrier for something. Most people who have this screening done are actually a carrier. 70, 80% of people who have these expanded panels find out they're a carrier for at least one condition. That's very important because now we can look at the sperm donors who've already tested negative. And now we have a tool on the search, the genetic testing search. So if you happen to know that you're a carrier for a specific condition, you can sort out the donor list for the donors that have already tested negative. And you can do that by the name of the condition there, if it's clear on your report what the name is, or you can do it by the gene name, and that will give that, those are all alphabetized. And by clicking those and applying that, you would be able to then modify your search of donors with that in mind. So that's an example. So we put in 2 conditions we wanted to make sure that you were negative for, but we didn't add any other parameters. So if you happen to want to a donor that's an ID donor, or maybe one with an adult photo or a specific ethnicity, you could sort your list that way. So it's a very good tool for you to know ahead of time what your carrier status is. If you by chance find a donor that's a carrier and you haven't had the testing done yourself, that gives you the information about what you need to be tested for and be negative before you choose to ship that donor. You can purchase him and keep him in storage, but you would definitely want to be tested negative before you shipped him out for use.
Thanks. Okay, here's another question here. Are there any specific questions you recommend couples to ask of their health insurance providers as they start the IUI process?
So just a general note, we don't work with insurance. So Kate, is there anything that people who are able to use on insurance for their IUS should be asking that you're aware of? I don't.
Yeah, we don't work with insurances either at our clinic. No, I mean, clinics that do work with insurance, they should be helping you walk through that process. I'm sorry.
A lot of the expanded panel testing on yourself would be covered through insurance. And once you have that testing done, it takes 2 to 3 weeks for a result. So getting that started early in the process would be good, because otherwise it holds things up if you don't have that information.
Here's another question for you, Kate. Fertility clinics seem to really push for a trigger shot. Is that for ease of them, i.e. less monitoring, or is there a higher chance of conception, same-sex couple with no fertility challenges?
So I'm sorry, is that ease of, what was the rest of it?
It was ease for them, less monitoring for the clinic, or is it higher conception likelihood?
Yes, higher conception likelihood. Okay, so this goes back to that ovulation predictor kit question, the am I ovulating? Ovidrel is going to help you ovulate. It's not the craziest thing for a healthy woman to not ovulate every cycle. In fact, to have 1 or 2 cycles a year where you don't ovulate is considered completely normal. Some women have multiple cycles where they don't ovulate. Ovidrel is going to make that happen. So when you get your positive LH, it implies that you're ovulating or that you're going to ovulate. It may not happen. So Ovidrel ensures that that happens. I love Ovidrel. It's actually the pregnancy hormone. It's HCG. It's a simple injection in the stomach. There's virtually no side effects with it. I've had someone complain of some fatigue, and I had someone else complain of a little bit of bloating. Most people say that there's cramping that occurs afterwards. That's ovulation. That's what you want to feel. You want to feel cramping. That's part of it. I think Ovidrel is a great thing to do. It just sort of ups your chances of getting pregnant because you're sure that you're ovulating. You can't get pregnant if you don't ovulate. If that egg doesn't pop out, the sperm can't get to it. So there's no way that conception can happen without ovulating. Ovidrel is usually about $100, and it's 1 injection. You don't have to decide when to do the injection. Your provider will tell you when to do the injection. It's pretty risk-free. Yeah, I'm a big supporter of it, but it ensures that conception can occur, as opposed to just assuming that the LH positive on your OPK is correct, your ovulation predictor kit. Does that make sense?
Mhm. Okay, another question for you, Doreen. When
Mhm.
purchasing storage, is the storage fee per order or per vial? If I buy a few vials plus storage, do I need to pay the storage fee again if I add more vials at a later date?
So we have a flat rate for our storage, which is great. So that means no matter how many vials or specimen that you have stored with us, our monthly storage is $40 per month, or we have prepaid options that range from 6 months to 10 years. And the more you're able to prepay for, the more we're able to save for you as well. So if you do need long-term storage, we have great prepaid options for that.
Great. Okay, here's another one. How many vials would you recommend a couple with normal fertility purchase to maximize the likelihood of 2 successful pregnancies?
That one, I always recommend they speak with their licensed medical professional because it's going to depend on how many vials for insemination attempts and how many insemination attempts, and if they're thinking for the future for siblings as well. Um, Again, we have really great long-term storage, so we are able to store vials if they need to plan ahead for future sibling use.
Doreen, what's the benefit of storing with us rather than shipping to the clinic and storing?
So we have a buyback program, which is my favorite benefit. So if you are purchasing 10 vials and you only use 2, those 8 vials, as long as they've never left our facility, would be eligible for 50% back if you wanted to return those, if you decided you didn't need them. If they leave our facility, they would not be eligible because we would not be able to guarantee the quality standard any longer. So it just needs to remain with us in order to be eligible for that buyback.
And
Can
Doreen,
I
are you?
also suggest something?
Mhm.
Asking client services how many vials that donor has left can also help guide you on how many to purchase. So if there's a lot of vials left and you're doing your first time at IUI and it ends up taking 3 cycles for you to get pregnant, that might help guide you on what vials to purchase for your second child 3 years down the line.
As well as the status of the donor, we are able to see if that donor is still active. So if they're still active, I don't usually mention that when people ask, but if they're not active, I do mention that. I say he is no longer donating. So we are not expecting more vials. So you know that there is a for sure end to what we're expecting.
Someone else wants to know, are we still offering the buy 5 vials, get 1 free?
That's a Club Fairfax benefit where you would pay $399.95 and it would include the full access package. So you'd still get the full access to the website for 90 days. But if you buy 5 vials, you get a 6th vial for free in the year that you have the Club Fairfax membership. So the benefits are for a year, and the Club Fairfax membership includes that. It also includes 2 free shipping fees. which is another great benefit since those do cost $305 for priority overnight shipping or $245 for 2-day shipping. So you're paying $400, but you could get $610 worth of free shipping.
Speaking of shipping, how far in advance do we need to ship to a clinic? They're in the UK.
Oh, in the UK, well, what our international team does is they are going to work directly with your clinic to make sure that they're approving your order. So you can place your order with the global or the international team at global@fairfaxcryobank.com, and we're going to put the vials on hold for you and have all your information ready to go. And then we'll reach out directly to your clinic to make sure that they're able to approve everything because they want to make sure that this donor is an appropriate match for you. And then once we have that approval, we're able to schedule the shipment. Shipment to the UK takes about 2 to 3 days, I believe, or 1 to 2 business days to ship.
Great. Is there any idea of when set donor samples are going to be available? I.e., if a donor is preferable and we go on the waiting list, do you actively seek them out to donate ASAP? And when that happens, how long between donation and availability could it be? Can we know where we would sit on the list?
So we're an FDA regulated program. Michelle can talk about that a little bit more too, but every time a donor makes a deposit, there's an FDA required 6-month quarantine period. And so it does take at least 6 months sometimes for the vials to become available.
And just so that everybody understands the process, the screening process to get into the program takes, I would say, about 2 months. Once the donor is accepted into the program, meaning he's had all of the required, FDA required infectious disease testing, our genetic screening panel is done, a physical exam is done, and all of the screening questionnaires are completed, medical applications completed. It's a really intense process. We have a great webinar that overviews the entire donor screening process that you can check out on our blog. But once the donor receives what we call our final acceptance into the donor program, he's actively donating with us approximately once a week for about 6 months at a minimum. And so they're regularly coming in, but every single specimen date has to be kept in quarantine for a minimum of 6 months, and then have an additional set of infectious disease tests completed and have all acceptable results to what we call clear the vials from quarantine and make them available for you. So what we do in order to make inventory available to the clients is we do regular blood draws on our donors. So every 90 days, every 3 months or so, we're doing blood draws on the donor. If the donor is up for it and doesn't mind extra draws and we have a need to clear more inventory and there is more inventory available, we will even do optional monthly draws to clear that inventory. So in terms of asking about, if there's a wait list, do you seek out the donor? The donors are already actively in the program donating. It's a matter of meeting the FDA's requirement for the 6-month quarantine, clearing those units with acceptable testing, and then the units become available, the vials become available to you on the donor search.
Great. Alexis, here's a question for you about the forum. Someone says, I used to be on the old Fairfax Cryobank forum. Will my account and the private donor group access transfer over?
So your account will transfer over, and like I showed you before, you're just going to sign into your account when you go to account and press sign up and log in with that normal login, because we've actually implemented single sign-on. So the same information that you use to sign into your donor search and all of your donor products should get you into the forum. And after you sign in, just go to resources, press family forum, and then it might ask you and give you a prompt to sign in one more time, and you're just going to press sign in and you should be all signed in. Again, if you have any problems with this, then you can email us at forum@fairfaxcryobank.com. We have seen some people actually have some issues with being able to get back into their private donor groups. But again, please just email us at forum@fairfaxcryobank.com. But you shouldn't have any issues still having permissions to get into the private donor groups.
Great. Suzanne, here's a question for you. If the donor has a medical or genetic issue that shows after donating, do they contact Fairfax directly?
We do ask the donors to give us any updates, not only on their own personal health, but the health of their family members, if they've had children. So there is an active program where we are communicating with donors and they communicate back with us and provide us those updates. When those updates come into us, we review them. If there's anything that's actionable, we certainly will go above and beyond to notify. But if it's a simple medical update or personal update, we will put a notice in the summary profile. Now, this is a free product that's available on every donor, whether he's currently selling or sold long ago. But if you purchased a donor and you want to just check in every year to see if perhaps updates are available, I suggest going to his summary profile. At the bottom of the of the summary profile there in the update section, we will put those updates there. We'll say the month and the year it was received, and we'll put that information there. That's an ongoing process. It's going to go on for as long as we are a cryobank. And that is the only part of the profile that will change moving forward. So it's not as if we go back in and we change his height or his weight or his anything over time. The only place we'll make a change is in that update section. And that is what you can check in every year.
We're very proud of our update program.
Yeah.
We're the only bank that's doing this actively every year, reaching out to all of our donors, all of our retired donors. We do follow-ups with them. We want to get this information because we recognize that when we collect the original medical profile, it's a snapshot in time.
Right.
And young, healthy guys tend to have younger, healthy parents and possibly young, healthy grandparents. And over time, that's going to change. Everybody develops issues, everybody gets sick, people will pass away. And so what you'll often see in there is, update received 2012, nothing. Update received 2013, nothing. Update received 2014, blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden you'll see update received 2019, maternal grandfather passed away of a heart attack or something like that. The other thing that's exciting that you'll see in those updates is if the donor completes a degree, if the donor's family grows, if he has children. So I personally am very proud of the update system, and I think it's a great thing that we're doing, and it's really important, and it's a good service that we can offer free in that donor summary profile.
Great. So Doreen, someone wants to know, can you explain how does the wait list work?
Sure. So we cap our wait lists at 10 people, which I think is a great important fact because it's not an infinite number of people who can be added to the wait list. Clients are also only allowed to be on up to three wait lists at a time. So you're also not allowed to be on infinite wait lists yourself. As soon as we have vials that are released, we try to spread it as evenly as possible. And you'll get a phone call and an email depending on what information you left with an offer of what vials we have available for you. You'll have to respond in 2 business days, and you do have to purchase everything that's offered to you to remain on the wait list. So if we offer you 10 vials and you really only need 2, and you just purchase those 2 vials, you would be removed from the wait list because we're going to assume if you didn't need those 8 other vials, they can go to other clients who might need more than 2 vials. And that's when people do get off the wait list. Also, if you don't respond in the 2 business days, you are removed. And that's when other people can be added to the wait list to get more vials of this donor.
Okay, here, this one says, when making the choice between non-ID donor and ID donor, what are the challenges some families face? And in your opinion, is there one route that's better than the other?
So just to answer the second part first, my opinion doesn't matter. What matters is really what you think is the best choice for your family. We, in our many years of experience, have seen an evolution in the desire to have the ability to connect with a donor. One thing I do want to just inform everybody about is in January of 2020, the state of California introduced some new legislative language that required that previously non-ID donors have the option to consent to release of their information. So we made the decision internally to apply that to all of our donors over time. If a donor participated in our program as a non-ID donor in the past, and he has changed his mind, there is an easy mechanism that he can use by contacting us through our website, completing a notarized document that says I'm consenting to releasing my identifying information in the same process as your ID donors, meaning like you're not just going to give my info out, you're going to follow your ID donor process. And then he submits that back to us. And what we'll do is we then update that summary profile. It's in there, and there's a note internally for our CS staff so that they would know that this particular donor, even though he is a non-ID donor on the website, has consented to the release. And your child could then go through the ID process. I think now is actually a good time just to briefly describe the ID process. So when you use an ID option donor or a non-ID donor who has consented to release, your child has the option when they're 18 or older of contacting us, making a request. There's a form that we have, either they can download the form or we have it in what's called DocuSign, which is like an online form that they can complete. There's some information we need so that we can verify they are who they say they are, and we can connect them to this specific donor. We then reach out to the donor. Hopefully he's been in touch with us all, through time, but we reach out to them as a courtesy to say, we've gotten a request. What is your preferred method of contact? How do you want them to contact you? Email, phone call, video chat, whatever. And he has a certain period of time. It's a short period of time. Maybe it's five to 7 business days. I can't recall off the top of my head, but a short period of time to respond and say, I prefer X, I prefer email. And then what we do is we release his identifying information, all of the identifying information, and we indicate what his preference is to your child. Recipients cannot make the request. We will not release information to recipients. It's only to the 18-year-old child, 18 or older. I guess you're not a child when you're 18 or older, but donor conceived individual. And then they have the ability to connect with the donor. So we're not mediating that connection. We're just providing the information to the donor conceived person. And when it comes to making the choice between non-ID and ID, like I said, that's incredibly personal, and you have to make the decision based on what feels right for your family. Going along with that ID, disclosure of your child's donor conception is an important decision and process, for your family. And if you are able to offer them the possibility of a connection, maybe that feels right to you. It's an incredibly personal, very important decision.
Someone wants to know, do donors have the opportunity to change their mind the other way, becoming non-ID when they were originally ID?
So no, we don't have a mechanism for that, and they understand through the multiple screening steps and interviews that we have with the donor through the screening process that once they sign the donor agreement, that we're not going to allow them to change their donor, the brand, so they can't change from an ID donor to a non-ID donor. They understand that we're going to release that information. But please be aware, when you are purchasing an ID donor, what that is you're getting, your child will have the ability to have the contact information. It is not a promise of a relationship. It's not a promise of any specific type of communication. It is literally what it is. It is identifying information that can be used to reach out to that individual.
Switching gears a little bit, what is the difference between vial types?
This is a great question, and one that we get a lot. So I actually have a slide for that. Pull that up. Okay, so I'm just going to go through what this means, and then Doreen, if you have anything to add from the CS perspective, please jump in. So we offer various vial types. We offer an ICI prep. ICI is Intracervical Insemination. And what that is a vial of sperm that has had a semen evaluation done on the fresh semen sample. It has been processed, meaning it has had freeze media added to the sample. The freeze media will help protect the sperm through the freeze thaw process, because as you can imagine, that's not, an easy process for the little sperm to go through. It is not washed. It includes seminal fluid. So an ICI vial can be used for an ICI or intracervical insemination when the sample is placed onto the cervix, which is basically just a home insem, you can use an ICI sample. Now, if a donor only has ICI samples available, you can purchase them for use in an IUI if your clinic can wash the sample. So the second type of vial that we offer is an intrauterine insemination vial. And this prep type is washed. It removes the seminal fluid. The sperm is resuspended into a media with a cryoprotectant, that same agent to protect the sperm through the freeze-thaw process. And that's ready to go for the intrauterine insemination. Now the difference and the important point here is that intrauterine inseminations are medical procedures where a medical provider, such as Kate, will use medical equipment in her office to enter the uterus through the cervix using a catheter to insert the sperm directly into the uterus. So it's a shorter swim for the sperm to get to the egg. And the reason it has to be washed is that we don't want seminal fluid entering the uterus, but it contains proteins and hormones that can cause cramping. So that's an IUI. You can use an IUI for an at-home insemination as well. And we offer assisted reproductive technology or technique vials, either IUI or ICI. Now these vials have fewer sperm in them because the purpose was to create a cost-effective, less expensive option for individuals who are undergoing either IVF, in vitro fertilization, or ICSI, intracytoplasmic sperm injection. You need far fewer sperm for those procedures than you do for a regular ICI or IUI. Two of those art vials can be combined for a regular IUI or ICI. And we actually have a wonderful tool that will help you. Now let's see if I can find it quickly. Does anybody know where the infographic is on the sperm?
It's on the
Recommend
blog
information.
post.
Yeah, we have it a couple places. If you go to resources and then donor sperm and then specimen information, and it is on the
There we
blog as well. Doreen is correct.
Okay, so this is just a handy dandy little infographic for you. So if you're having an in-office insemination, here are your options of what to purchase for one insemination. If you're doing an in-home insemination, here are your options for what to purchase. Same for an ART procedure. So those are the options that we have. Not every donor has all prep types at all times. So you need to know what you want to use the sperm for before you make your purchase. Doreen, do you want to add something?
Yeah, I do want to just let you know our client service reps are not medically trained. We're not like Kate, I don't have any medical training. So most of the time, if you ask us what preparation type to use, we can either refer you to this infographic, but I always recommend that you talk with your licensed medical professional because they're going to know exactly what you need. It's mostly specific to what they can do in their office. So.
Yeah, can I just say something? I do only IUIs, and patients, they fall in love with the donor. And they'll come in and they'll be so sad that all they have is art vials. But we get great numbers from 2 art vials. Or they'll be sad that they only had ICI. We get great numbers from ICI. So really when it comes down to it, if you're doing IUI and you have the ability to wash the sperm, you can really pick any vial. And we have this infographic to help you out too, but really you're going to get great numbers from whichever one you pick.
Thanks, Kate. Yeah, that's the thing I forgot to mention, sorry about that, was in an ICI or an IUI prep vial, you're going to have a minimum of 10 million total motile cells. It's probably going to be a little higher than that, but that's your minimum. And in the ART vials, you're going to have a minimum of 6 million total motile cells because, as I said, you need fewer cells, sperm for those procedures. Morgan?
Great. Can we talk, someone wants to know what are our donor birth limits?
Okay, so family limits, birth limits, family limits. So we made the decision many years ago. It doesn't feel like so as long ago as it was, but we made the decision internally that we were going to work to limit the number of families for one donor in the United States to 25 families. As I mentioned earlier, that is dependent on reporting from our recipients. So we need you to report your live births to us so that we can track that information. Once we have 25 families reported, we won't distribute that donor to any new recipients, only to those who have reported families to us in case you want to have a sibling pregnancy, have a sibling for your child. Internationally, we follow the international regulatory limits as imposed by the individual locations, and those vary greatly globally. But we follow those limits in each of the locales. If a donor is able to be sold both domestically here in the United States and in an international location, we keep the 25 limit in the States, and then we have we try to limit to around 15 families additionally internationally. Anyone want to add anything?
That's perfect.
Yeah, I wanted to add that ID donors, if you have a willing to be known donor, you need to report the pregnancy so that when the child is 18, that it's on record. Otherwise, it's not going to work out as an ID donor. They won't get that information for their donor.
And just to clarify, report the birth and then the ID birth. I mean, report the pregnancy too, please, but
Yeah.
both, yes.
It is really important to get that information reported to us, and I'll just add it's super easy as well. There are a ton of places on the website, easy, click, 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 enter your information. Every time we send a newsletter out, there's a link in there about report your pregnancy, report your birth. We do need that information. We need information about the birth. We need information if there are any health issues. It's really good to stay in touch with us and keep communicating with us, and we're going to keep doing the same for you by providing updated information in the summary profiles. All right, Morgan, do we have any other questions, or should we wrap
No,
up?
I think we can do one more question. We have one more here. Someone wants to know a little bit about the donor screening process. They're asking what we reject donors for.
Oh, so many things. The donor screening process is actually really complicated. Not complicated, it's comprehensive, I'll say. I will highly recommend that you go to our blog and look up a previous webinar that we did on the whole donor screening process. It will answer all of your questions in detail. As I said, the process can take up to 2 months. We're doing physical exams with contracted physicians, infectious disease testing, genetic disease screening, screening questionnaires. We do multiple semen sample screening that we basically are doing an evaluation, test, freeze, and thaw. That all gets thrown away because we don't have test results yet. So that's all happening. We do a psychological screen on the donors called the PAI. Suzanne, correct me, personality inventory.
Assessment inventory.
Thank you. Which identifies psychopathologies, and if that's the case, the donor would be rejected from the program. If he currently has any infectious diseases, he's rejected from the program. There are certain genetic conditions that would rule the donor out. We do medical suitability screening directed by our medical director, who is a board certified pediatric geneticist. And we're looking at family history of clustering of different diseases. We're looking at the donor's history, medical history, everything about their physicality, their height, their weight, their hair, their eyes, all of that. So they go through all of that process, and then they would be, we do a background check. We verify their education. I'm trying to get it all in there. We verify their education by getting copies of their transcripts. I think that might be everything, but definitely take a look at that previous webinar. It'll go through the whole process in a lot of detail, and there's a really good Q&A at the end of that webinar.
But less than 1% of the donors who apply are actually accepted. So
Thank
that's
you.
an important number too.
I don't, how did I forget that? That's like the #1 talking point. We're very, very choosy about the donors. We want to provide the highest quality, best tested, best quality donors for our recipients. All right. Are we good, Morgan?
Yep. Thank you, everyone, for your questions.
Yes, and thank you all for attending. Thank you to my fellow speakers, and please take advantage of this promo code for the ULA. It's a really good deal. All right. Thank you, everybody, and have a good rest of your day.
Thanks.
Bye.